If you've ever wondered whether you're neurodivergent or just felt like you see the world a little differently, you're not alone. I was diagnosed autistic at 25, and suddenly, so many things I never had words for started to make sense. Here, I share the good, the bad, the ugly, and the beautiful parts of life through an autistic lens. My name is Elena Carroll, and if you're looking for answers, understanding, or just an autistic friend, you're in the right place. An experience I think so many autistic people can relate to is burnout. Basically, just continual exhaustion. No matter how much you do, no matter how much rest you get, you just wake up feeling tired. You go about your day feeling this perhaps glaze over your eyes. You're kind of foggy in the brain. And this is all down to living in a world that wasn't designed with your brain in mind. But this actually applies to friendship burnout, and it is often a result through us putting ourselves out there with friendships for it to essentially fail and not work out, them to walk away, for there to be kind of some blowout or conflict, or them to completely ghost you. And that can be really hard to bounce back, to build that trust. It is something that I am possibly in, is this friendship burnout, and I'm actively in the process of trying to implement strategies to heal from this, because I don't want to go about my life distrusting humans. I think the ones that it hasn't worked out with has been for a reason, and it has allowed me to come on here and talk to you guys about it, because I have this string of failed friendships, unfortunately. The funny thing is that we are often afraid to unmask our real selves because we're scared that people are going to walk away and reject us. But if they were friends with a mask, then they weren't friends with an authentic self. And so if you are unmasking with people and they decide to walk away, that's not actually rejection. That's actually healing yourself, healing your authentic self, and making room for the ones that will come in. And that will happen, and I believe that it will happen. I just think that it takes a little bit more time than a neurotypical person. So what is friendship burnout? Let me just define this a little bit more so you guys all understand. It's a form of autistic burnout, but instead of work and life stresses and sensory overload, it is essentially relational fatigue. Essentially what happens is your nervous system can't keep up with the continual people pleasing, the masking, decoding the tone of voice and facial expressions, and the overwhelming anxiety of whether you've got a friend, whether you don't, are they mad at you, are they not? And you just end up in a continual state of believing that everyone is going to reject you, and you are therefore living in a state of distrust. The symptoms of this can look like social withdrawal, irritability, emotional numbness, even social dread, just really dreading social situations. And this really indicates to an overstretched nervous system. I just want to make that clear, that it is not something that has happened due to you being at fault. Maybe it is something that you have done through a means of survival, and that just needs a little tweaking. Friendship burnout can hit really, really hard for autistic people, neurodivergent people, and there are a few reasons for this. Oftentimes we can invest really, really deep and really, really fast in a friendship. Maybe the person becomes a hyper focus, and we really invest a lot of time and energy into the person. So if they walk away, of course that's going to leave a gaping hole if we didn't want that to happen, or at the very least it's going to hurt a whole lot. If that person still remains to be a hyper focus of ours, but the other person hasn't been as reciprocal to our friendship, this emotional drop off of their energy can feel really catastrophic to our nervous system. It is like a nervous system energy crash, and everything that we might have been building our safety in has gone, and that would feel unsafe for anyone. The combination of rejection sensitive dysphoria, which is basically the overwhelming state of rejection, it's something that you kind of can't move past because it feels so debilitating to your survival and to your sense of safety. That, along with masking fatigue and sensory overload, it really compounds the feeling of exhaustion, and so most of the time we end up not putting ourselves out there at all. On top of that, I think many autistic people struggle with alexithymia, which basically is the difficulty in being able to identify your own emotions. And so most of the time, if you struggle with alexithymia, what might happen is you might not even realize what you're feeling before you reach the point of burnout. You can't do anything to stop that. So what are some ways that we can actually realistically, as neurodivergent people, start to tend to ourselves and refuel ourselves after this relational fatigue, this friendship fatigue? The first one is using low demand connection. I think a lot of the world kind of bases their friendship in, always communicating and always having really long in-depth chats, and it always has to have this great weight to it. But it doesn't always have to be like that, and you get to define what your friendships mean and how they operate. Connection isn't always built in the full presence. It can be built in other ways. This might look like sending memes or sending long text messages or voice notes. That's another really good one. Coexisting quietly. I had a friend who really loved us to be doing separate things just in the same room. So I might have been playing The Sims and she might have been on Facebook or watching TV, and we weren't doing the same things and we weren't even talking to each other, but we felt connected. I think shared silence equals a safety feeling for neurodivergent people. These forms of low demand activities actually starts to build the trust for us that maybe words can't do. It actually helps to build connections in some ways as well, because we're not depleting our energy through communication. A big part of what I am having to do is redefining what connection feels like and actually feels like in the body. I think the biggest thing that I want to say is friendships should not feel like an emotional performance review. You shouldn't feel like you're having to perform. You should just be with the other person. This doesn't apply to every single situation, but I'm just going to make a general statement here and say that if your nervous system is feeling calm, then it's probably a good indicator that you are in authentic company. So I think that this one is more so about coming into yourself and actually noticing what's going on in your body. Noticing regulation cues. So is your breathing slower around this person? Is your tongue glued to the top of your mouth, the roof of your mouth? Or is it more relaxed? Is your jaw clenched? Are your shoulders high up and tight? All of these things are saying that maybe you're feeling a little bit more stressed than maybe your brain can comprehend right now in this moment. If those survival cues aren't there, then that is your way of your body saying that this person feels safe to be around. And oftentimes your body will tell you before your mind actually does. So this is my tip to you, is actually start acknowledging what your body is doing. Notice the clench of your jaw. Notice your breathing. Notice your shoulders. And when you start to do this and you start to feel calm with another person, this is called co-regulation, where you are matching what someone else's nervous system is feeling. A state of calm. My next point is regulate before reconnecting. I think that so many of us can get so caught up in making the other person feel comfortable that we can actually start to lose track of, what we're doing and what we're feeling. Autistic burnout often mirrors like social anxiety, and the symptoms might look the same. So if you are somebody who oftentimes caters to another person, then really start to kind of come back to yourself. If you have a habit of immediately replying to messages or feeling the stress of having to tend to another person, really ask yourself, have I eaten? Have I decompressed today? Am I grounded enough to engage authentically with this person? Because if not, then you need to take a pause and actually tend to these things. That person will still be there, because friendships that are built on sustainability and authenticity will last longer than ones that are built on guilt. Finally, I want to say to practice micro unmasking. And this is not a very big thing, and it is not a fast thing either. Instead of dropping your mask all at once, start very slow. For me, I often try to do this like half an hour every day. So this might look like allowing yourself, letting yourself stim with certain friends, not all friends, certain friends. Saying that you need a minute to think before immediately answering their question or their request. Sometimes if you have been asked to go out and you don't really want to do that, just say you need a minute. They'll still be there if they're real friends and are meant to be in your life. Allowing yourself to be seen and be more vulnerable. So if you're feeling really drained, tired, say that. I'm feeling really tired right now, but I feel really grateful to be here. These small little things are actually training your brain, training your nervous system, and rewiring your brain to say that authenticity doesn't immediately equal danger. It can also be linked to safety. These are some of my tips, and obviously they might not all be implemented, so just choose one if it feels a little bit overwhelming right now, and just make sure to take it easy with yourself, because the relational fatigue, the friendship burnout are extremely heavy feelings, especially if there is trauma or complex PTSD related to these relationships. So that was my video today, you guys. Thank you so much for joining me and spending some time with me. I hope this helped you in some small way. And if you would like to see any more content from me, my social media links are always down below. I love you guys so much. Thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you in the next video. Bye.